Hi, Leo. This is Gina. Thank you for joining me today. I just finished your March horoscope that will be coming out later today. And I just wanted to take this time to check in together on a live. I have two different parts of my channel. I have these daily live streams that I do every day where we talk about the current astrology. And it's very conversational and a place where we can talk together and ask questions and anything about your astrology, astrology in general. Um, and then I also do monthly horoscopes. And there is so much happening in the skies right now. The astrology is so busy, and really in February, March, and April, that I wanted to come on right now for each sign and just have a quick check-in. So the March horoscope will be out later today. Your February horoscope is already up, but I just kind of wanted to check in today about the current astrology. So let me also say before I jump in that if you have any questions at all, please leave them in the chat. Anything you'd like to add or contribute, how these times are sort of unfolding for you. And then if you're watching this later and you leave something in the comments, I'll still read it and reply. I reply to all of my comments. Okay, so I'm so happy that the timing worked out the way that it did for me to check in with you today, Leo, because we are at a moment where Mars retrograde is slowing down. This Mars here at 17 degrees of Cancer, where he's been for quite a while, is finally getting ready to turn direct. So Mars is stationed in the sky right now, meaning basically standing still. And so we're at a very powerful point in this long Mars retrograde cycle. And for you, this is happening in your 12th house and then in your first house. The retrograde cycle, let me just kind of draw it out really, really quickly. My hope is that if you are learning a little bit about astrology and you're interested in all that, that the visuals can be fun and helpful to pay attention to. And if you just like the astrology and you want to ignore that, that works too. Okay. Either way, I hope it kind of just feels like hanging out with a friend of yours who just happens to know astrology. Okay. So this retrograde cycle started in like the fall when Mars first entered Cancer. And then Mars entered Leo and turned retrograde and then moved back here to Cancer where it's been hanging out forever. And now we'll go direct back into Leo. So altogether, this is like a 6-month process. It can be really intense when it's all in one sign. That happened the last time we had Mars retrograde in Aries. So Mars was in Aries for like 6 months, and usually Mars moves through in just a few weeks. So you can see that we've sort of been running over these same points in the sky, and Mars has been here at 17 degrees forever. Okay, so for you, connecting the 7th house and the 1st house, Leo, this is such a good moment to be talking. I feel like this has been such an internal process of healing. And now as Mars starts to turn direct, you're going to be starting to feel a little relief from that, feeling a little bit better. So Mars retrograde is kind of always about an internal process and emotions rising to the surface. And then that's extra true with Mars in Cancer. And then for you, having this in your 12th house really makes it such an intuitive sort of internal process. It could be that things came back up to the surface for you to look at that maybe you had let go. It could be that conversations sort of came up again that had been hurtful in the past. Maybe they happened again, or they came back into your memory and started to bother you. Not necessarily conversations, just old hurts. I think that this was a time where you may have been triggered in some ways these last few months emotionally. but you've been working on that on the inside for the most part. You know, a lot of people have lashed out during this Mars retrograde. I feel like there's been a lot of lashing out and quick reactions. And I don't think that you've been a part of that. I think instead, I mean, maybe here or there a little bit, but I think the most important part of the process for you is sort of allowing these things from the past to come up to the surface for reevaluation. And there's been some healing with it. Emotional healing, almost like a spiritual healing. And it's been sort of very personal. It's very hidden. It's not maybe even something that you've really talked about with anyone very much. But now, as Mars is turning direct, you're going to start to feel a real relief from that and more of a forward moving energy instead of an internal, going inward, going deep energy. So I think that that will really feel great, and you're going to start to sort of reap the rewards of um, of that work that you did. Okay, so I also want to talk about another two houses, another pair of houses. There's something else going on that involves um, two parts of the chart, interestingly enough, and this is really significant now and for the next few months. So I just want to bring this into the conversation. Um, there's a lot going on in Pisces and Aries right now, which is a really interesting two houses to be involved, right? Because Pisces is the very end of the zodiac and Aries is the very beginning. So planets crossing between these 2 points, it's sort of more, even a little more than normal. It's sort of more significant. And actually, there's some themes around sort of endings and beginnings that sort of match very nicely with what you have going on here right now. In terms of energy that's happening in Pisces is sort of letting go and ending things. And then when planets move up into Aries, it signifies more of a forward movement. So I think that that works nicely with what you have going on here. It's like the healing, and then you are able, once Mars moves into Leo, wow, you're really going to be shining in a new way. You've been doing a lot of work with all that healing stuff with that retrograde in the 12th house. Once we get to this part of the cycle, when Mars comes back out into Leo, you're going to be feeling a confidence, a motivation that you haven't for a while. And that will help you to tap into this Aries energy, I think, that's going to be sort of moving everything forward. This is just a wild setup right here. And again, this is a February, March, April story. But for this stuff, we're actually looking even a little bit further beyond that. We're talking more about like the next 18 months. We're bringing in, for you, Leo, let's talk for you. I feel like you're bringing in real spiritual processes here in the 8th house. One of the things that the 8th house is about transformation and wisdom. And so it also sort of relates to confidence, like self-esteem, self-love, worthiness. And so the North Node here is really calling your attention to those themes. Those are the themes that you can really lean into right now and really for the next 18 months. And, you know, Saturn's there to sort of lend you some practical support, some real tools that you can use. We've had this Mercury-Jupiter square lately that I've heard too many negative things about, I'm afraid. I think that there's real potential for good news with that. And it can be difficult in some ways, but it also can be good news. I really believe all the transits have different ways that they can be expressed. I think all astrologers believe that. It's just too easy for all of us sometimes to focus on the negative, I think, and I've certainly done it myself as well with astrology. But no, it's bringing in this wisdom, this transformation for yourself, and sort of moving forward in your unique ideas, beliefs, philosophy, the way you see the world as a unique individual, showing up as yourself in terms of the way you see the world, if that makes sense. It's like after all this focus on gaining more wisdom, allowing yourself to grow and change, then you sort of show up in a fiery way as with a new set of beliefs and ideas. I almost feel like it's a level of sort of leadership and teaching of your beliefs and ideas and philosophies and the way you see the world that you haven't seen before. I think there's also something here that I want to mention that I'm just kind of enjoying this signature, and I'm kind of mentioning it for almost everyone at this point, regardless of where it falls in the chart. And because I just think it's so supportive of everything else that's happening. The South Node in Virgo is really helping us to release perfectionism, release those needs to overplan, overdo, any part of us that might be critical of others, kind of releasing that. You know, wherever the South Node is moving, we have the potential to release the negative sides of that planet signature. And for Virgo, that's things like service. Service is the higher expression. When we release the lower expressions, we're able to bring in that higher expression. So we're able to bring in this like very pure form of service, which is where I was going. But first we have to release perfectionism, overdoing, over planning, over scheduling, being a bit critical. And once that's sort of put down, we can move forward in a different way. And this house relates to your values and also your earnings. So I think there's something here about aligning better, Leo, with your value. And that probably is true in a figurative sense, understanding your own value for yourself. And I think could also be true in a literal sense. You know, it could be that you're looking to earn more money for your time, earn more money for your efforts, for your work. And that could be a part of the process over the next 18 months or so. So yeah, it's a very interesting time astrologically. Um, we are about to have two planets going retrograde. This is really like the craziest thing. I'm pointing to Venus and I'm pointing to Mercury. That looks like I'm pointing to the sun. Mercury. There we go. We have Mars now Mars is stationing direct after this very long retrograde that's been going on and on. But in March, Venus and Mercury will both be retrograde at the same time and basically in the same place. So Mercury by then will have moved into Aries, and Venus and Mercury will together go retrograde back over into Pisces and then forward back again into Aries. So it's just very interesting while all this other stuff is going on too, with Saturn and Neptune crossing over themselves into Aries, and the North Node just made that transit across that line. It's really, really very interesting. But for a few days now, here at the end of February, I've been thinking so much about March, I'm starting to forget that it's still February. When Mars stations direct on Sunday, we will actually have all the planets direct for a few days. So that is very exciting. It just is a little bit more potential for forward movement, for progress. It's a great time to dig into a project, to get things done. And then on March 1st, when Venus goes retrograde, we'll have more planets retrograde in the sky. But yeah, those last few days of March are potentially quite productive, even though we have quite a few planets in difficult signs. You know, Mars is debilitated in Cancer, would much rather be across the way here in Capricorn, very far away from that, a little bit uncomfortable. Venus in Aries would much rather be here in Libra, focusing on relationships. Instead, we're being called to kind of focus on our own unique wants, our own values and ideas. who we are, how we're showing up in the world. Mercury in Pisces, quite uncomfortable, would much rather be over in Virgo where things are clear and make sense, but instead is here in Pisces where language and conversation is blurry and mystical. So I think we're really being called to do things a little differently right now, Leo. Not to approach things the way we always used to listen to our inner voice, to let go of the need to be perfect and do everything just right or overplan, but instead follow our intuition a little bit, trust ourselves, believe in ourselves, not take on these ideas that we have to be perfect to be enough, letting go of that. And yeah, I think do things a little differently, show up a little differently. I think that's the key right now, all around. Checking out the comments. Yeah, Sophia, there is more on my channel if you'd like to check that out for your sign. And I will be getting into Virgo tomorrow, is my plan for Virgo Sun and Virgo Rising. So thank you all so much for being here. I really appreciate it. If you're still here, please give this video a like if you don't mind. It really goes a long way to support the channel and just get this video to more people. You can find horoscopes on my channel. I will link to the March horoscope here once it's finished. And I'll also link here to a video that I did with my friend Corinne about the sign of Leo and some of the sort of meanings of Leo. We did it for all the signs, and I think you might enjoy that. And just thank you so much for being here. I hope you have a great day, and I'll be back again tomorrow.